going to talk about one of probably the most important loops you can ever get into in your life, the confidence competence loop that can literally take you from where you are to heights most people never even dream possible.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
Man, I wish my voice still sounded like that.
It's getting better.
I tell you, it is getting better, but I still have this huge frog at the back of my throat that it feels like. And you ever had a cold where you, not to get too yucky, but you cough up this phlegm and you're like, oh my God, that feels so good.
Yeah.
I get it. And I'm like, oh, that's it. And then I'm like, no, it's not. It's still cracky, but whatever. It's okay. It's okay. Andrea, how are you doing? How is everything going? Thank you so much for being here.
Good. Except for the fact that I keep thinking today's Friday. I'm great. I don't know why.
You just got another day of productivity in the mix, so you're good.
I know. I need it too.
So today's big thing, and I had originally another conversation for today, Andrea, and then yesterday, Lisa, actually. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning, Lisa.
There was a lady that put out a post, and Lisa said, well, it's kind of like what Dan talks about, this competence loop. And it got me thinking about this loop, because this loop is literally the one loop that will either stop you or really help you achieve anything you've ever wanted to achieve. And it works. I originally heard about it from Tony Robbins. And he said, there's this process that we go through. And if we don't start this process, we'll never come around clockwise. And he started talking about the competence loop. And when I look back in my sales career, it was like, the terror of picking up the phone. Then you pick up the phone, it's like, well, that wasn't so bad. Then you pick up the phone, it's like, that wasn't so bad. Then I talk about go for no. And it's the same thing. There's this fear, there's this paralyzing aspect of it where we have to gain the confidence to make the call, or gain the confidence to say in the presentation, are you ready to go? Are you ready to do this? Let's do it, right? And then that builds the competence part of it, where we just get better at saying it. We get better at our sales process. We get better at our conversation. We get better at all of it. And then it just keeps looping around. And I think of it like a tree where it keeps looping and creating these rings. And as these rings get bigger, so does the tree. So does its strength, its power to weather a storm, to take the hail when it comes, and the wind and the limbs breaking and building and growing back. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today. What, as I say that, what's kind of the first thing in your guys' minds?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
No. Go ahead, Andrea. Go ahead.
So it is go for no is completely the competence loop, like completely. And I always say that without ever saying those words, I always say, you learn where your gaps are, and that's how you build your competence. But you only learn where your gaps are when you start to get out there and make presentations. And then you realize, oh, wait a minute, I need to change this up. Or maybe I'm talking to the wrong person here. And so I need to fix this. And the more you do it, the more confidence is gained. But that beginning step, it's the first step to starting that loop. And it's like anything that you don't know what you're doing, like riding a bike. It's okay. That very first time that you try to start the loop is the hardest step. And that's the step that people want the most assurances over, that it's going to work, that it's going to work out, and that, they want it with the least amount of pain and the least amount of embarrassment, especially when you're an adult as opposed to a kid learning how to ride a bike. You don't care about embarrassment then. You're just like, you're fixated on the goal. Whereas we just care so much about what everybody thinks and how it's going to look to the rest of the world. And we think everybody's paying attention to us. That's the spotlight effect. Everybody's paying attention. Everybody knows exactly what I'm doing. And it's not true.
I love, you called that the spotlight effect?
It is, yeah.
I like that. Can you tell us more about that?
I don't know who, I don't know who coined it. I read about it not too long ago, but it's the idea that we just believe that everybody is paying attention to what we're doing. So sometimes people say, I'm not going to put this out yet because I'm not ready. And I don't want everybody to know that I came out with this thing. And then I'll have to go back and I'll have to retool it and I'll have to start over. And it's like, what are you talking about, everybody? Are you talking about the whole planet? Are you talking about like your 4 best friends? Who are you talking about? And the reality is, until you are like, you could go down the street and ask 100 people, who's Tony Robbins? Who's people in our space that we follow? Who is this person? And a lot of people would say, I have no idea. Like the person that you idolize in your personal development or professional development in your niche, people would say, I have no idea who that person is, and yet they're famous. So this idea that we think everybody's paying attention, no.
Right.
That.
Yeah, to go back to the bicycle thing you were talking about, most kids, they crash, right? They fall off and they get back in the saddle and they start and they keep on improving. And Dan, you're talking about the tree and growth. And it's like, I used to say, it's God's way of pruning the trees when winds come up and they get rid of the dead limbs and everything and it falls. Well, it's the same thing when you make those cold calls, that you're also pruning out the bad and focusing on the good. So this way you're learning each step when you make those calls. Like Andrea talks about, go for the no, right? Well, yeah, that's what you're going for, but you're learning from that no so you get more yeses. And the way that you do it is that you trim out, like I said, that tree, get rid of the bad limbs, and then recreate your presentation to whom you're talking to. I think that's the right way to do it. It's always a learning phase.
Yeah, all our sales is bridging gaps, right? It's really all it is. And the more gaps we can bridge in our life, the better we become. And I it's funny, Andrew, you talk about that spotlight effect. And I remember when I was a kid, I failed my driver's license test like 7 times, at least 6 or 7 times. And I remember every time I failed, I'm like, oh my God, everybody's going to think I'm just like such a loser. Like when I finally get my license, people are going to stay off the sidewalk. They're going to be so afraid. Right. And for me, it was more the wording of it, like the wording. And I was like, oh yeah, that's the answer for sure. And it's like one word's different. So after 7 times, I finally passed, and nobody, like as soon as I got my license, like all the failures in the past were gone. And when I would go to school and somebody would say, hey, how did it go? I failed. Be like, sucker. And then they'd walk away and that would be it. It wouldn't be like this huge like announcement at the school PA event or whatever, where you think you have this thought. And I remember when I first started in logistics, I was in what was called the pit. This area was just, I think it was 8 or 10 sales reps. And it was like a boiler room. And I remember sitting there staring at everybody going, everyone's going to hear me. Like, I can't, what if I screw up? They're going to hear me. And you start having the conversation and it's like, nobody's paying attention to you. Nobody. And when you win, people are like, yay. And then they go back to their work because they're focused on what they're doing. And it was a similar situation in the company I worked with where they created a space where salespeople can go and sell in quiet. And I was against it. I was like, no, I don't like that, because what I found is they'd go in there and they'd sell in quiet. Nobody's paying attention to them. They did more social media than they did selling. And it's like, I think in sales, you got to be able to sell while there's people around you and things are happening. Like in the military, they teach them like things are going to happen in a firefight. Things are going to happen when you're doing this to remain focused and pay attention. And I think if you don't sell in those environments, if you're in a boardroom and something happens, somebody sneezes, somebody walks in, it throws you off because you're not used to working in that environment. I think it's a, I don't know. I just think it's hindering as opposed to helping, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that is interesting, and you made me think of, first of all, the driver's license story is it's such a classic go for no story. I mean, that is a go for no story in and of itself. So congratulations
And I'm
the.
good. Like I've never had an accident or anything. I'm good. Like I'm a pretty good driver, right? And
Some people, yeah, those tests can be purposely, those tests can be purposely tricky. Absolutely.
yeah,
But you reminded me of this idea that we have to have everything perfect around us. And I have my quirks as well. Like sometimes I like to be if I'm going to do a sales call, like if I have a meeting or something, I just have this thing. It's my comfort zone is being at my desk, like to have all my stuff
mhm,
around me and to have my resources and stuff. And I realized, Andrea, like this is like a weird hang up, because sometimes I'm just not able to. And I would put things off. I would put maybe having a conversation with somebody off a day, because I was like, oh, I'm traveling and I don't want to have a conversation in the car while we're driving. It's just
mhm,
weird and
mhm,
awkward. And then I said, no, I need to be able to handle this, because I'm going to be busier and I'm going to be on the road. And so it can't always be comfortable. Like it just can't. So I would force myself to say, like, yeah, I can meet you at 3 o'clock tomorrow, knowing I was not driving, passenger in the car, because we were driving from this place to this place, and forcing myself to be in an slightly uncomfortable position, just so I could do it. Because the last thing that you want to do is um, be somebody who you get so tied in, your comfort zone just keeps shrinking. And then it's like, what happens when I can't? What happens when I have to have this conversation and it turns out to be like the biggest potential yes of my life, and I have to have it in the car or in a hotel room or in a hotel lobby, and I have to be prepared to do that. So I thought, just keep pushing yourself out and keep getting more
mhm,
comfortable with this. That way, I'm ready. Like I don't have to always do it, but at least I have to get comfortable with these things.
mhm. And I
Yeah.
also think if you're doing that and you're getting comfortable in the uncomfortable, when you get back to your desk, you're twice as productive, meaning you could do twice as much, because now you're in your comfort zone. So your level of your volume, your level of growth has now grown, like it's raised. And when you're back at your desk, like you're going to kill it every time, because you're you don't have those, but B, you've expanded that. So now you know what I mean?
Right.
There's
Mhm.
that confidence competence loop. Again, it goes right back to that, right? Like we can go back to that. Everything in our life goes
Yeah.
back to building those rings of a tree. And the
I,
more you go through this loop, the stronger you become at sales, at operations, at hard conversations, at negotiation, at everything. Because if you look at it, the one big skill, I think the latest statistic was like 99.2% of salespeople don't have is negotiation. And in our industry, and Jeff, you know this, most salespeople negotiation is, oh, I'll do it for 150 bucks if somebody's doing it for 200. It's not negotiation. It's dropping your drawers before
yeah.
you even make a sale. That's like you're becoming the Walmart. And I'm not talking about huge box stores. I'm talking about the cheapest price of the industry. But all you're doing as a sales rep when you do that is you're just driving the industry down. So stop it, learn how to negotiate properly, and now start selling. And that negotiation piece of sales is missing. I mean, for
Uh,
30 years I listened to people. Oh, you got it for 200 bucks? Okay, well, I'll do it for 150. Oh, you got it for 1500? I'll do it for 1400. And it's like, and I'm looking around going, okay, yeah, I guess if you're all on price, if that's your business model and you're just doing it on price and you want to have the lowest margins in the company, but you want to move a lot of freight, sure, I guess. But the reality is, if we don't negotiate, we're never really selling.
no, no. And you know something, you're destroying your reputation as well by doing it. I mean,
Well, I
when
mean,
you think about it.
sometimes, Jeff, sometimes, but then you also got to think, right? There's the flip side of it. There's customers out there that only want price. You have the best price, you have the best reputation in their mind. So
Right?
again, it's all relative to the market, right? But you, in no way, shape, or form can anyone disagree that they're driving the
Oh yeah.
market down.
Oh,
right? And
sure.
Andrea, you probably see it in your world as well. If you've got a speaker that's willing to speak and the people that come say, well, this person's 20 grand, Andrea, and you're 25. You don't sit there and go, well, I'll do it for 15. You share how the value of 25 for
Right.
you is going to be so much better than the 20 that they're going to spend on them. That's your negotiation. That's where you start throwing, you knock over that big domino and all the other dominoes fall.
Yeah.
But that's where sales begins.
Yes.
Absolutely. So I love this topic of negotiation because it's first of all, it's so nuanced, and I think you have to. This is a go for no philosophy, which is sometimes when you're negotiating, you've got to be willing to hear no. And that scares a lot of people. So that's a lot of times why people won't negotiate, is they don't want to hear. They think no means that's it, it's over, and so they're not willing to have that back and forth engagement. And they're so scared of losing. They're so scared of losing the deal. And to some extent, you have to be willing to walk away, but you have to know your limits, and you have to, as speakers is such a perfect thing, because oftentimes, and I think it applies to everything, but oftentimes buyers of anything, they don't know the behind the scenes, and they drill down to commodities, right? It's like you want to sell your house, you're not thinking necessarily, you just need a real estate agent. And to you, they're all the same. It's a person who can help you sell your house, or you need to build a patio in the back of your house. It's just, you need a company, and you just need them to build the patio, and you need somebody who has the cement and the people to do it. To you, it's a commodity. And so it's up to sellers, and that's where the sellers have the ability in the negotiation to build that value. So that building that value is so key, and to explain why you're charging what you're charging. But then in the end, it's like, hey, if price is the most important thing to you, then sometimes you have to be willing to just let people walk away. And when you do that, oftentimes that will make them pause and say, okay, if you're willing to walk away, like if you're so convinced that you're that good and you're worth this price, then we will go with you.
Yeah, don't devalue your value, because that's what you're doing. I mean, everybody has their own way of presenting themselves, and if you know what your value is and you defined it, well, then stick to your guns. Don't devalue what you have and what you're offering. I mean, that's the problem right there. Don't bend over backwards to do something, where a lot of people do that. But when you think about what's involved in the account and how much time it's going to be, what does that cost you by devaluating yourself, coming in at a cheaper rate, and now it's costing you more to, cover the account and service them the way that you need to service them? I won't do it. I'll definitely say no. I'm not afraid to say no and walk away. I mean,
and Jeff, in our industry, most people drop their price because their funnel's not full. And it's one thing I've realized in training salespeople, is the salespeople that have funnels that are full, meaning they're constantly prospecting, they're willing to walk away because there's 15 more coming right up behind them that they can close. It's the ones that slack, that do just enough to keep their job. They need those accounts because they got to keep the brass off their shoulders. So they're more willing to drop and start talking price instead of negotiating value. Right? And if you think about it, probably, Andrea, in the speaking industry, it's probably the same thing. If you really need that one speech, you're like, oh my God, I got nothing else on the pipe, I need it. You're probably going to be more willing to drop in price or do something. But like Jeff said, there's a key, because the customer says, I want A, B, C, and D, and I want it for 10 grand. And you're like, I can give you A, B, and C, but D is going to cost you 15 grand. And then salespeople, they take it for 10 and they only deliver A, B, C, and D, knowing they could never deliver D. And then they could just give everybody a bad name, right? These speakers, they come in, these brokers, they come in and they say they can do this and they can't. I mean, Jeff, how many times have you hit that when you call somebody? Brokers, they never stand up for what well, it's because the other brokers The customer said, I need these 4 things for this price. That's what they need. To me, it's a very simple equation. Can I do it? Yes or no? And I'll give you a perfect example. With Inception, it comes with calls twice a week, live calls. Since I've been going through my cancer treatments, I haven't been doing the live calls. So what I did is I stopped taking new customers. And we're talking $2,000 a customer. Like, we're talking a lot of money that I've just put on the side. And I have people that have called me and said, okay, I want the course. So, we talked 2 months ago, I'm ready. And I said, you can take it, but here's the thing. There's no live calls until probably mid-October, when my voice is back and I've got my energy back. I said, so if you're still interested, it's there, but there's no live calls. And the live calls is where people really get the help, because I help them walk through their sales process. And I've had probably over 12 people talking $24,000 say, okay, I'll wait. Now, by the time October comes, they might have found another coach or something else, but I can't give them A, B, C, and D. I just can't. But I'm not dropping my price, because for me, I've learned one thing when it comes to personal and professional development. Any course, when you pay for it, you do it. When somebody gives something to you, you're likely not to do it. And I've learned that my whole life. And for me, it was a huge hit, because already this is not even people just going to my website and buying. These are people I've actually spoken to, is over $24,000. And we're talking 5 weeks I've been in treatment. So that's a lot of money in 5 weeks. And you compound that with the next 5 weeks that I got to stay off, right? It's close to 50 grand that I could, in possible losses. Not only that, my pipeline's dry, but I'm not willing to compromise my values and what I bring to the market. And I think that's
your health too. Yeah, your health.
Well, the thing is, by not doing it, I'm taking care of my health, right? Like, that for me is number one. But absolutely, from a student perspective, I'm not willing to compromise, because the deal is, I want 10,000 sales reps to do $1 million GP. That's my mission. It always is, and it always will be. And if you sell somebody something, you got to deliver on it. It'd be like Andrea selling somebody a $20,000 speech and coming in and not delivering the value that Andrea's used to delivering. How can you take money from somebody if you can't bring the value to them? It's just, it's stupid, and it's a bad business decision. And I know that's not necessarily in the competence loop, but I have the confidence, because I'm very confident at what I do, that will come back very quickly. Sure. And so I guess it does. I guess it does meet the competence loop. I guess it in some which way, shape, and form, it circles back, right?
Well, it does also, because remember what we talked about at the very beginning, which is there's that first step that people have to take. The first step is the hardest. The first thing is always the most difficult. And I think that these conversations, this in particular, the idea of negotiation and what do I do if they say this and what do I do? This is a perfect example of, you're going to end up probably making a mistake. I know I did in the beginning. Like, you're going to mess up. You're probably, you will be desperate at some point, and you will give out a price that's too low. You will negotiate poorly. And then in the end, you'll kick yourself in the butt and you'll go like, okay, never again. I learned my lesson. I lost money on that deal. I provided the value. They won, I lost. It wasn't a win-win. And so you learn what you will accept. And there's like this old phrase in recovery programs. They say, you teach people how to treat you. Well, we teach our customers and prospects how to treat us based on, so if people are always coming to you and it's always about price, how did they learn that? How did they learn that that's, the conversation? And it is probably because you taught them that that's okay. And they can do that. So it's something that you have to be very careful on, and you learn it quickly, hopefully. Again, I'm speaking from experience here. And so when that competence loop comes into it, it's just have to, in my Go for No challenge, I experience this. They want to start, they're all excited. And then it's like, how do I start? And I say, well, I'm not telling you to go out and be successful. Like, just go fall on your face, get some no's, make some mistakes, negotiate poorly, screw something up. I don't care, but you just do something so that we have a place to start the loop.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, even in our challenge that we did with everybody,
yeah,
a lot of people started it and not very many people finished it. When we started, I think we had 9.
mm-hmm.
And by the time we got on a call at the end, there was like 3 of us.
Yeah.
And they paid money for the challenge. And they, the first couple of calls they came on, and then the last 3 or 4, it was very few and far between that were on those calls. And it'd be interesting to see what they've implemented from that challenge now. So they spent their money, hard-earned money, to get something that's huge value, and they use this much of it. Where are they at now?
Bring them back. Bring them back.
What's changed?
Yeah.
It'd be interesting. And I've often wondered, they have that theory, right? Self-help, where all these business and self-help books, you get them because you're in this valley. You're like, oh, I really need this. And you get it, you're like, oh, great information. But we all know life does this.
Oh, yeah.
Perpetually. It's consistent. So you make this decision in the valley to get a book, and who knows, you might be on the cusp of coming out of the valley. You come out of the valley, you read chapter 1, you're like, wow, that worked. But you're really coming out of the valley anyways. So you close the book and put it on your shelf. Then it becomes shelf help because it sits on your shelf. One book, let's take Go for No. When you take Go for No, if I remember correctly, when I've read it 3 times now, there were 12 big lessons in Go for No. I utilize those lessons every day. If I don't utilize those lessons, the book was just a read. It wasn't to help. There's no value. And I believe when you take a book like Go for No, when you take a book like Extreme Ownership, when you take a book like even Jordan Belfort's, The Way of Wall Street, when you look at these books, right, you look at Crushing It, High Performance Habits, The Social Leap, Zig Ziglar on Selling, like Asking It Is Given, Napoleon Hill, like all these different books I have here, Motivation Manifesto by Brendan Burchard. You look at all these books, they have every key to do everything we've ever wanted to do in life. Every key. It's just a matter of applying the information, right? And that is, I believe, where the competence loop and what you said, Andrea, at the beginning, is that first step. Go do this. Like Gary Vee's Crushing It. He tells you exactly how to grow your following. I still haven't done it. And I believe in this stuff wholeheartedly.
Right. Well, and so sometimes, it's challenging because there's also the idea of focusing on one thing and getting really good at it, right? And you do have to pick. I think you have to pick. I hate to use the word battles, but you pick your areas where you go, you know what? LinkedIn is going to be my thing. I'm going to dominate there, or Twitter is going to be my thing. And so I think there's some lessons in there, and there's hard choices we have to decide. And I think a lot of people can't decide, so they try to do everything, and then they end up mastering really nothing. So it's challenging, but that idea of building your competence through that confidence is, to your point, Dan, why there's all this stuff. Why aren't people? And I think it's because people are scared to fail. I think they're scared to succeed, which ultimately to me is, if you succeed, then you're scared to fail because you don't want to lose your success. So to me, it always comes back to fear of failure. And it's really hard. And so it's safer to say, you know what? I've got those books on the shelf. Someday I'm going to read them, and then I'm going to become this amazing top performer. And until then, I can safely dream about it. It's out there, and I haven't failed yet. I think we all go through that.
Yeah, I think the problem is creating self-doubt before you even attempt to go and do something. So you're psychologically you're working against yourself You're your own worst enemy. Instead of building up positive things from what you read or have learned and adapt that and implement that, you start saying, well, what happens if they say no? You know, I mean, look at the what if scenarios prior to hearing that no, and then try to figure out how are you going to answer that question that's inevitable, because we're in sales, it's going to happen. How am I going to answer these? You know, write down all those rejection kind of comments that you're going to receive while you're on the phone, and then look at them and kind of memorize them, and then have a good wit and come back, and slam it. You know, that's what sales is all about.
You know what I did, Jeff, is I started just asking one question. That's it. Beginning of every sales call, one question. What's your primary and secondary reason for adding or switching a service provider?
Yeah.
And within a week, I got every objection I can get. I looked at them all. I wrote them all down. I said, what's my rebuttal? And then all I did was focusing on getting a better rebuttal and maybe a more convincing rebuttal. It's like Tyler just said, when he says, use that failure piece with your next prospect. And I think it's perfect, because you'd say, hey, listen, I know you want $1,000. Reality is I can't give that to you. I can give you A, B, and C, but I can't give you D. Okay, I'll take A, B, and C. Are you sure? Because D is a big piece of the puzzle. Yes. All right, let's do it. So you're not dropping your price.
Nope.
You're saying, hey, these are the deliverables you want. For that price, you got to take these out of the equation. And that's it. And, talking about equation, we're time for, and we haven't done this in a while, Jeff.
Oh,
that's our new video, Andrea. That's a good one.
I absolutely love it.
I know, it's awesome.
So the lane of the day today, and despite what a lot of people are saying with this big bloodbath on rates and stuff, listen to this. So Houston, Texas, we're talking flatbed, to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The line haul rate per mile, $3.08. All in with fuel is $3.85. Contracted rates are $3.51. Year over year, spot line haul rates per mile are up 47 cents. It's not a bloodbath. Okay.
No.
Rates have remained elevated on this lane since February as oil rig drilling has increased in the area versus prior years. The current rate is 12 cents per mile, $12 cents per mile higher than the July average. So there are areas of the industry where rates are flying. That's a fact. So it's not a bloodbath. What it is you need to get your confidence loop up and get better paying customers, and get customers that are in these higher industries that are going to pay you what you need in order to deliver that value. Yep. Anybody have any closing comments before we, I can't believe we've been 33 minutes already. That's crazy. It's crazy. Andrea, it's like time flies with you. It's so awesome. I love it.
We have the most fun conversations. No, I thank you for having me on, and can't wait to do it again.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
You know what? We're definitely going to get you on again. And I'm so glad that you were able to do it so fast. I know we only kind of touched base. What was it, last week? No, 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. You'd heard.
Well, I have a topic for next time. Next time we talk prospecting versus selling.
Yes, let's do it. That is such a great topic. Okay. Everybody have a fantastic day. We'll see you tomorrow on Wins and Losses Friday. Thanks, Andrea. Thanks, Jeff.
You got it. Have a great day, guys.
In trucking, our motto is people before profit. Today's market requires more transparency, consistency, and focus on what our clients need to win. Centurion Trucking and American Logistics are poised to help their clients achieve and surpass their targets. If you're looking for a team that honors your needs, dreams,